Okay, so thanks for everyone for coming out tonight. We're gonna cover, I was looking at my slides here, this PowerPoint that I have in front of us. We're talking about motivation and goals, the types of buyers, what are good buyers, what are like buyers that you want to work with, what makes a good seller, and how to find new leads, new sellers. Talk about a little bit of new buyers, and then talk about commission. And I think I wish there were more people were here. We'd be able to talk a little bit more also about about dividing the geographically how we wanted to divide in terms of finding new leads. What I wanted to, okay, we'll talk about that a little more. Just remind me that I don't have it on the list here, but per se. And so let's talk about motivation and goals. So, like I said, there are types. Everyone has. I mean, I think today that's one of the there's quite a bit out there in terms of motivational speakers, sources. It's endless. There's so many people. Some people, just like I mentioned last week, I was in the middle of Tony Robbins, right? Tony Robbins had his 5-day special motivational stuff. I didn't get a chance to listen to it all. I took a lot of it. There were some points I did take out of it, and I had to review it, and I'm willing to share it with If I think some of it already took it off, and they probably took it off the internet. But there's some points I definitely should write down again, and not for now. But what I want to do is we have, as you saw, a Hagefen Realty WhatsApp group, and that's what I wanted to. I actually want to have separate WhatsApp groups for Hagefen. Okay, I want to have one for motivation. Either I put up stuff, you guys can put up stuff, whatever you think is good. I think it's nice. There's a lot of stuff up there. I saw also I'm on Instagram, and besides Facebook, and I saw on Instagram there are a lot of real estate agents out there who are going through all of the things that you're going to be going through. Difficult sellers, difficult buyers. They go through it, and you see how it's good to know that you're not the only one. And it's not just as these kind of phenomena are not just related and segregated to Israel. Wherever you are in the world, real estate agents have very similar issues and whatever problems. Like you're not supposed to use. They say in terms of motivation, you're not supposed to see problems. It's
Challenges.
There we go. Challenges. Right. That's the word I was thinking. So, anyways, and the more you face these, the more you see them, it doesn't affect you as much. So, anyways, you can move on to the solutions right away. One of the ways I mentioned over here, affirmations. There are people who love to say affirmations, and I think there is some strength to that. Does it work? I think there's some, something mystical, the power of the universe. That's also part of that thing. Does it hurt? I don't think it doesn't hurt. I think it's very motivating. Even if just the fact you put yourself in a sense, today, and then one of the motivations, I said, Hashem, however you want to describe it, Hashem, bring me. I am here. I'm opening my source of energy for new good clients, new buyers, good buyers, happy buyers, people with people who are motivated that have good buyers and good sellers, good clients. Those are the kind of things that I think it's nice to have in the beginning of the day, that you start out your day like that. And Hashem gave me, of course, in general, in your tefillah, I definitely think it's kadai to put in your tefillah. Help me today have the courage to open those doors. If I need to open up and go find new listings, new people, knock on doors, give me the strength to do that. The patience not to get down through negativity. self. Sometimes, again, it's part of his motivation. Why do we need motivation? Because it's, again, as I mentioned the first time in our first meeting, it's with sales. It's not and with other things, but sales in particular, it's sometimes it's yes or no. It's like it's you either get the sale or you don't get the sale, and it's like it doesn't. And you have to be. It may not be the right type of client for you, and you might not have the right property at this time, and you have to sometimes let go and realize there is someone there are other Hashem will send you other clients that would be the ones for you, and you can't. So it's like in any sales job, it's like sometimes you feel down when you get the no. I mean, part of the sales technique is to always dream, and that's talked a little bit about spin last time, is to get the person to say yes. So you have to, and it's true, you have to get yourself in a situation, you have to ask the right questions, say the right statements, so people are not going to say no. That's it. It's true. It helps. It does. It's not a secured success, but I think it does help. To make sure that people say yes more than no. Would you like to see the property tomorrow? Can I? Like they always say, would you like to see door A or door B? Well, what time do you want to see? This is one of the sales techniques. Okay. I have to. What time can I show you the property tomorrow? This week. You want to see it on Monday or Tuesday? They themselves have not said if they want to see the property or see it a second time. Okay. So there's a power of suggestion. Okay. You're not asking him yes or no. Do you want to see it? You already are introducing in that particular. It's a famous technique. I'm sure some of you have heard of it. Yeah, you're already suggesting two options and not yes or no. Anyways, okay. Goal setting. Okay. And goal setting is a catalyst for new energy and focus. It very much is, because you just besides we all have a limited hours during the day, and we can get carried away with so many things that are kosher. They're definitely even kosher things that we do. It's like our family, we're not talking about the internet. I mean, that definitely can pull you off. Yeah. No, it can carry, I myself, I sometimes get carried away during the day with laundry. My wife works as a full-time teacher, so sometimes she doesn't have time to do the laundry, to clean up, to the dishes, and so sometimes I do it, and I have to focus. Those are I can't get involved with those things during the day. Maybe messy, and maybe this, maybe that. Nighttime is the time when I can devote myself to those things. During the day, you have to see like a job. If you came late to a job, if you had a job, and you've had it before, you can't say, no, I'm home, I'm doing the dishes, I'm taking my kids to work. I mean, okay, kids, of course there are things but things you can do later. You can do them at night or during your break, whatever you are, whatever you outside your regular time of business. So you devote to. So yeah, it's a mindset that I mentioned over here. And I'll mention it right now, actually, because the last point I mentioned, which I'm skipping because there's a reason. Planning your week is essential. You remain focused. 7 habits of highly successful people, important and timely. Have any of you read the book 7 Habits of Highly successful people? You read it? Okay. So
classic also.
What?
It's a classic also.
Yeah, it's great. So there are a few. You have to read it. I have a thing for teachers, how to teach it actually, but maybe I'll bring some of the things. But I have the book.
I started to read the one for teenagers.
Oh, they have teenagers.
My teenagers.
Yeah. Okay. So right. So besides, I mean, there are some very amazing things in there about also idea of being proactive and synergy, which we'll talk about later. But when I mentioned it, what he mentions over there's 4 quadrants. There's things that are not important and they're not timely, right? Like I just mentioned, right? We have doing the dishes. Okay, is that an important thing? Not really. Is it timely? No. Unless you have guests coming over in 2 minutes. All right, so you put that on the side. You have things that are that are important, but not timely. You have things that are not important and they're not and they're timely. Okay, and you have things that and then you have things that are important and timely. Okay, real estate definitely hopefully in when our focus that should be in this particular quadrant of important and timely. Okay, for many reasons. One of the reasons is, and what we'll talk about, is you as a agent being able to find a good buyer, a good seller. Often these things are so extremely timely, meaning in the sense that if someone calls you up, okay, for a rental or for a purchase, and you know of it, okay, it's something it's like you have to be very urgent and diligent. I mean, in the sense that if especially, I mean, there's different ways of doing things, but let's say they already signed, that's why we discuss that later about signing. When you send a property to somebody, okay, it's not quite sure. The law is it's a little gray area, but often people will feel obligated to you if you send it to them, if you sent the information to them by email or by WhatsApp before the other agent. And it happens. That's happened to me a number of times where the other agent sent it to the same client it could be a few minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes earlier, okay? And automatically the client feels that they're more obligated to the first agent. And there's something to say about that, coda codem, zoche, whoever gets there first. So, I mean, that's a really specific example. But in real estate, there's a lot, time. I don't want to say, time is very important in terms of priorities, and sometimes we have to see it in that sense.
What about exclusivity? Meaning
yeah,
not exclusivity on a sale or on a property, but exclusivity and say, okay, I'm signing with this. This is a buyer. I know they're interested in buying. Okay, let's work with them for 6 months. I'll be the exclusive person. They can't necessarily call any other agents. I'll take them around.
Right.
Exclusive buyer agreement.
Right. So there's no real agreement in Israel. I know maybe in America. Is there one in America?
Oh yeah. It's called an exclusive tenant or exclusive purchaser.
Right. I've heard of something like that. In Israel, it doesn't really work that way so much, but I can tell you, once you made a connection, and if there is a connection, hopefully if there's a connection with a potential buyer, and they trust you, then you mentioned that's really important. That's certain. We'll talk about a little bit about this, the connection. Once you made that connection, then you will say, you know what, you don't have to. That's one of the ideas of the spin thing, is that it must be hard going from one agent to the other because there's no coordination. Did he see it? Did I show it to him already? Oh, maybe I saw that through this agent. Because especially in the open market, there's a lot of properties that are being shared by multiple agents. The beauty of having one agent to work with is they coordinate all of the properties, all of the other agents that are out there. Okay, and it's a great service. And if you can explain that to your buyer, okay, you're not going to have to buy. You're not going to have to pay double commission. It's only one commission, and so it's great if you can do that. Sometimes you could even maybe offer. Okay, you don't have to right away. We'll talk about commissions a little bit. You may be able to offer them a reduction in commission because of that, and they might feel, oh great, well I get it. Maybe instead of paying 2% and 1 3/4 and 1.5. Again, you have to feel you don't have necessarily have to do that, but if you have to feel it out. Goals. Okay. Goal setting. Getting back to goal setting here. We're still on motive. Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
to interrupt, but since we raised the topic
Sure.
of exclusivity, can I just ask from the other side, from the seller side? Like, I see that there are some properties advertised as
Right.
exclusive to
Right.
a certain agency, or
Right.
but others not. How does that work in Israel?
Okay.
Or in general?
So right. So first of all, the topic of exclusivity is we're going to talk about it as a separate meeting. Okay, it's okay. But I'll tell you, exclusivity, of course, means that let's say you're the agent, you're the one who has the exclusive right to sell the property. No other agencies have that right. Okay, by law, you're not allowed. An agency is not allowed to have it for more than 6 months. It used to be they can get for a year. The problem with long exclusivities, guess what? What do you think it is?
They don't do anything.
Huh?
They don't do anything.
They don't do anything, right? You have a whole year. I just sit around. Today, to get 6 months is lo pashut. It's not easy. Okay, most sellers don't, unless they really trust you. Sometimes they'll give you 1 month. I usually don't do more than 3 months, less than 3 months. Why? Because to get things moving, that first month, and sometimes just to get advertising and things moving, it takes a while.
I'm seeing it a lot in this neighborhood,
Yeah.
especially because I've had so far I have 3 apartments in my back pocket.
Right.
None of them want to hire an agent. All of them are open to working with real estate, agents,
right.
bringing people, but they don't want to pay the commissions. Is it? Guys, I'm happy to bring it. Work with everybody. No exclusivity, no commission to you. Just sell my property.
Right.
So they want you to sell the property, but
They're happy for you to sell and to bring someone, but they don't want to pay you.
Yeah.
okay.
That's
Well, that's again. We'll discuss that in a little bit about
like there are
commission.
3 properties I have in my back pocket right now.
Sellers in general, right? I think that there are some issues there. I think there's also a bad, what's the word? Hype, bad press on real estate agents. There've been some real estate agents have not done so well, and
Especially in Israel.
they've given a bad name for real estate agents. So you have to. So our goal is try to bring that around, to try to create a good image. Anyway, and that's a whole separate thing. How to present it again, because to do an exclusivity isn't just so getting back. Okay, so you have they are limited. They can if someone knocks on the door. Okay, they're really not even supposed to show it to anyone. Yes, here's a card of the Rena. Here's Rena's card. Call her up, set a time, and she will be happy to show it through her. Okay. Again, in the beginning, I usually with exclusivities I usually try to focus on my own particular buyers because I want more commission. But again, to really do good, to be fair and do a good job, you really should open up to other agencies as well. And if he finds it, if the buyer or the seller finds a buyer on his own, he still has to pay the commission. Okay, because
with an exclusive.
This was an exclusive, right? It doesn't matter. So sometimes it works, sometimes that happens, but
If the buyer finds.
if the buyer himself, let's say someone knocks on the door, okay, and says, and they don't, for some reason, he didn't give the card out, but they made their own deal. He still has to buy. He still has to pay the commission. What happened to the buyer? The agent lost out on getting commission from the buyer. That's the issue. Okay, and that's so we have to when we do an exclusivity, you have to explain it very well. Don't let anybody in, and it's just the way it is. Again, I'm sure it's happened before. I don't think necessarily. Can you take the owner to court? I don't think so necessarily. I don't know, maybe today it's a little different. Maybe you can do such things, but if there has to be a certain understanding. Anyways, but now do you have but you can still sell a property not through exclusivity. Okay, like Danny was saying, you bring a buyer. You're not limited. They're not. Go on your own. Always. That's a different way of doing things.
So, but that was also my question. That in this instance where they don't want to sell you, or they don't want to sell you as an agent, if you bring a buyer to them, then you don't get a commit, and the person buys the apartment or home, you don't get a commission from the seller, but you still get from the buyer, and that's how you're working it, is that you're building. Okay.
That's right. We'll talk about that soon.
Okay.
What's the
So what's that?
in terms of like? I know. Sorry, I'm jumping. In terms of commissions.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of agents. People negotiate. Like when I negotiated for my parents, a lot of people are like 2% plus VAT. But then someone's like, you know what? I can do 2%, no VAT, like 1.5 including VAT. Like,
Right.
Is the protocol in Israel to charge VAT on the commission, or can you withdraw the VAT so the buyer gets a little bit of a better deal?
So right, you can There's all open to negotiation. It is. The issue is, and it's halakhically or ethically, do you want to take things without VAT? Okay, there's it's illegal. I mean, you think about it. You don't want to get yourself in a situation, even though great, I saved the seller or the buyer 18% or 17%.
Right.
But in the long run, again, you have to write out the books and everything. It's there are issues. I mean,
you pay the VAT on it.
I pay that. Yeah, I pay that. Sometimes there have been years I haven't been in 100%, and then in the end, I don't know if it's halakhically there's issues with doing that too. There's Dina Malchus Dina, which is Dina, all the land is another halakha. It's always good. So, anyways, sometimes, but again, sometimes you include, you'll pay for the VAT and all that stuff. So it's like, anyways, goal setting. Goals have to be defined by objectives. For example, I want to sell. Let's say you want to sell 2 apartments a month. Okay, it's a nice goal. One, whatever. I mean, one's also very nice. But just say you have whatever number you come up with. You have to understand to get to that. There's something called a sub goal or objective, however you want to call it. In order to get to sell 2 apartments a month, you have to do the necessary X, Y, and Z things to accomplish that. Which means, and we'll talk about this as time goes on, make the phone calls to potential clients, make phone calls or make meetings with people that you know, relatives, friends, talking to people on the street, door to door, going door to door, all the things that you need to create, all the energy and time and effort has to go into that in order to be able to make sales. Okay, to say, so you have to say, okay, and what does that mean in terms of say, okay, for me to make X amount of door-to-door visits and to make X amount of follow-up and calling and calling people that I know. Going to the barber. I mean, what an example. You'll see there's I put in the WhatsApp over here. There's one of the WhatsApps I put a screenshot of from one of Keller Williams manuals that I have. There's a couple of pictures. One of them talks about where the lead's coming from, and one talks about the actual personal leads that you can do from people that you know, personal and professionally. Hi, I'm so and so, Rena Hoffman. Hi, Rena Hoffman. An example. What does Lisa say? I work for Hagefen Realty. So I'm a realtor in training. I just want to know, just wanted to tell you, what I'm doing. It's really exciting. If you know anyone who's interested, who needs come and make an aliyah or however you want to say it. So you already put a hint in someone else's brain that he never knew would know. He never would have known. Okay, and if you don't say it, if you don't say it, it's not going to happen. No one's going to. I mean, they can maybe see your face somewhere. I mean, again, as time goes on, they could. If you have a poster or a flyer or whatever on the website, hope it could get everyone's picture and name on our website. Yeah, but it's if you personally say, oh wait, yeah, it's great, yeah, and then that person will hear say, I've been a nice, my friend, or my friend Daphna, gosh, she's a real estate agent. Yeah, I met this, it's interesting. Yeah, she's, she knows, she works in Gimel, and I think, this might be, maybe she knows, maybe she has something for you. So word of mouth and networking is like, wow, it's really powerful. I can't underestimate that. So again, as I said, you have to say, I'm giving X amount of hours It can be 1 hour today. It can be 2 hours today, or whatever is your comfort zone. Again, it's also, I think it's important also to go a little bit above your comfort zone. And
what's your take on Shamish phone? If I take Shamish phone right now,
right.
There's, I don't know, probably hundreds of names in there,
right?
Addresses.
Okay.
I don't
Just
look at it.
What?
I don't look at it. I'll tell you, like, my generation don't look at it.
I think only look at Shamish phone. They have your own. You have your own. I saw you have your own Gimel. Gimel has their own phone book listing now, right?
I don't look at that either.
Wow. I don't get it. You gotta find it. You gotta find out where it is.
What I'm saying is that it's a
I
resource
really
for
don't
finding
mind.
people, right?
Yeah.
You're saying it's like a resource for finding
We'll
clients.
get. It's
Right,
good.
but they put it online, so there's like a spreadsheet online.
Oh, right.
So I don't
So
need to
the
like
Shamish
flip
Like
through a
the
whole
Shamish phone
book.
has
Yeah.
a directory of names, right? If we just say, okay, hey, it's Daniel.
You want to call people?
That's what I'm thinking.
You could. I'm saying, yeah. It's okay. You could. People. The disadvantage, they don't see your face. You're just another person calling, and that's why I said if you can. I mean, I think if you want to combine that with door to door,
right,
would be good. Would be good because door to
Or just
door.
say, hey, I'm coming by.
How
Much
would you
better. It's much
focus?
better, huh?
How would you focus? You would just be on the phone all day until you find someone.
Uh,
Like you're just gonna call all the
yeah.
Rosenbergs of,
Yeah.
you know.
Listen, I'm not saying you can't do it. It's just that it's less. You have to make. Question is, how many phone calls do you have to make in order to and is an equal the power of going door to door? You know what I mean?
So,
It's hard to say. It's like I would say for one door to door, it's like worth 7 calls. I'm just guessing. No, I'm really. I think it's much more effective.
It depends, meaning because you can catch a lot of people. If you're going door to door
Yeah.
in the day, people are.
So right. So well, door to door also during the day is also certain hours. You shouldn't be going.
What are the best times
yeah.
for door to door?
Anytime in the morning, people sometimes go to work, or but in the afternoon is very good. After 2 o'clock, there's this. I mean, after 4 o'clock, there's this thing about 2 to 4 that in Israel that people usually don't want people to not usually bother them. So so I would not. But in the morning, sometimes in the morning, the thing about door to door, and we'll discuss that also, is not. You'd be surprised. I was even calling. Often, so what are the chances that someone's going to say yes? I'm interested in selling. Okay.
Very high.
What?
Very high.
Why do you think it's high? It's very low.
Because I'll tell you, the demand is so high. Like
Yeah.
I've been
Yeah.
in certain situations where I've walked into a commercial property, for example. And
Right.
said, yeah, I'll sell. Get me $10 million, right? Like there's the people who say I'll sell if I get the right price. They're
Right.
interested in selling.
So
like
we'll get to that in a second. There's okay. Well, those are not. That's called unmotivated sellers.
right.
They're just looking for a. They're looking for a.
Way to get you out the door.
Yeah. No, they're looking for a dream, pipe dream. Okay, we're not. Those are the type of people you don't want to work with. Okay, right away you'll see. It's like that's why if you know the market well.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What about new buildings?
What's that?
New buildings that they're building. Like in my neighborhood, I live in a construction zone.
Okay.
I always see new buildings coming
Okay.
out. But like, how do you will you go up to the people building? No. Like
No.
You have listings from the Kablan.
The Kablan usually get the
How
builder.
do you get the listings from the
Call up, find it. Yeah. Find the Kablan. Call up. There's usually phone numbers on there. Okay. Wait. Let's. I think we jumped. We'll get to the next slide. Let's see. And we're talking about finding new listings. We'll discuss that in a second. Let's see. Did we anything else? Any other questions on this particular topic? Motivation goals? No. Okay. What are we doing here? Okay. Okay. We're on to buyers. Okay. Types of buyers. Okay. My thing over here jumped a little bit. Okay. I'm gonna bring it down. Okay. So the type of buyers. Let me read this over here. One, they have a good budget. They have a buyer, okay? They have a buyer or are they sold? Right. So they're ready to go. It isn't like a buyer, well, I have to sell this property and it's like,
You have to have pain.
huh?
They have to have pain.
What do you mean pain?
Meaning
Oh, you mean for this
like they have to
the
have a
spin
need.
the spin thing? Yeah.
They have to have a need.
Right. I mean,
Like are the apartments too small?
well, they may have it. No, that's still a need. They still need they for some reason they do want to buy, but they're not in the situation. I'm not saying I'm talking about like the best level of buyers. Best level buyer, someone who has the budget, either he just sold, he doesn't, or maybe he has enough money and he doesn't have to sell. That's fantastic if you can be at such a level. Okay. They're pre-qualified for mortgage, very important. Some people just, they run out and they don't realize that maybe they're not qualified for a mortgage or a certain amount, or they're qualified for a certain amount of mortgage. Okay. I work with a particular couple of mortgage brokers. Did you speak to Adam Siegel in the end?
We're meeting tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night. Okay, see.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I have an example of that.
Yeah.
That first category, that we have a house in the U.S. that we may want to sell, and then if so,
Right.
we would want to buy. So we're still in that like pre.
Right.
kind of
Oh, I
place.
hear.
Like we haven't sold our
Oh,
house,
I see.
and
I see.
we're not,
Right.
So I think like I'm an example of that.
Oh, I see. Right.
Like
Okay.
in
Okay.
3 months I might be a motivated buyer. Like,
Right. Right.
But
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
So right. So it's important. So I have a few mortgage brokers that I recommend. They're very good
I
in
have a
terms.
good one also.
Who do you work with?
Do you know Aaron Morgan?
Yes. He's the other one. He's the other one people work with.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah. So those are the two main ones. Adam Siegel and right. They are motivated. They will. What did I write here? They're motivated. They will bother you. Yeah. They're after you. If they're calling you and what can I see next, or what can I see? What did are there? How much will they come down? Again, these are typical questions. You want to buy something. You want to know how serious the sellers are. So you'll see from their questions. They've seen a number of properties. Wow. What's that?
What's a good, like, if someone's asking, let's say a crazy number, let's say 3 million.
Yeah.
Throwing out a number.
Yeah.
What's a good negotiation? How much will sellers like? I know a lot of times
Usually
people start at 3 million. Okay, now no one's
Usually,
buying something at 2.7.
right. Historically, it's between 3 to 7%. Is the usual
Is that what they'll
typical? But we'll talk about that. We're talking about selling in a little bit. Yeah, that's typically no one buys, no one sells. I think like America too, right? No one. Is there negotiation?
25%.
Huh?
Usually, I can negotiate to 25% less in America.
Not here. No way.
Maybe 15.
No way. You can't do that here. No.
Meaning, if someone's selling for
If they sell, and even I was reading the Keller Williams, one of the guidebooks, and it's true. It's like if someone's selling
15%.
no, if someone's selling that above the market price in Israel, then you won't even look at it. They're not serious. They're not serious. Not
Which
motivated.
is the case in Ramat Beit Shemesh. A lot of people are selling
Right.
the market.
So right, and that's one thing I want to tell you about exclusivity. Those are the kind of people. And you run in, you're so excited. I got exclusivity. That is one of your worst moves. Why? Oh, but so I'm the one who control all the buyers. If it's overpriced, you won't have buyers come, and you will disappoint the seller. I had a situation on Rehov Timna of a seller that I didn't do such a great job of bringing people. They canceled my exclusivity. See, that's the thing you talked about, exclusivity. Before, I think maybe after 4 months, they came with so much problems. I just couldn't handle it. And I said, you know what? You don't like what I'm doing? Then okay, we'll shalom. I felt bad for myself, also for them. In the end, they sold it on their own or through an agent, and I actually sold them. But the thing, I didn't give up. I sold an apartment in Scheinfeld, about 10 years ago, which they actually sold a few months ago. We moved to Netanya without me because they had but anyway, that's another talk about the loyalty. Whatever it is. Anyways, getting back. Oh yeah. So again, one of the best buyers is someone who's seen a lot of properties, because for a number of reasons. They see what's on the market, and they define then, we discussed that they know in basically now if they've seen a number of properties, they know what's good for them, what they need, what they really need, maybe what they want. Okay, that's why I think I'm gonna try to get a really good buyer a sign-up sheet, whatever, not a sign-up sheet, but a sheet to describe. They describe what they really want and need, because at that certain point, if they've seen enough properties, then they're really ready to go. They see something that they like, they know exactly what they're looking for, and they'll go for it. They don't have to, because often people, when they first start, they think, oh, it's like Shadukim, almost like, Fortunately, sometimes people like to go and, I've seen this, and I want to see something else, let's just see, maybe looks nice, always get something else. That's the tip. That's the psychology of people. That's why when they've seen a number of properties, then they're really ready to make a decision. I think much easier.
What's the right amount of properties? So you're not wasting.
Depends on the
your time.
person. It could be 2 properties, 3. It could be 10. I don't know. Whatever. Again, it's hard to say. They understand and trust you in terms of the market. This is through a deeper connection. That's why I talked about exclusive. Or Danny, you talked about exclusive buyers. Okay, if they trust you and you've told them they trust you, in terms of what properties are out there and the prices. So that's in a way that you can build their trust and then make the sale much easier. They have defined their needs and wants, as mentioned before. They are familiar with the area. They have friends and relatives there. I think that helps too. If you know that they do have friends and relatives in a particular neighborhood, then it's much. I think there's definitely motivation for them to buy more that this came like don't know anybody. It's a little harder. They're open to doing renovation. It's not doing renovation is not so simple. I don't know if you've ever been through it, but you have to. It's a hassle. First of all, sometimes you have to rent out a place, a separate living unit, in order for the property to be renovated. You have to find someone to do renovation, and it's not simple finding a couple on. And sometimes some contractors are not so trustworthy, and they don't do things on time. There's so many factors. So, but if you do, some properties though are cheap enough. Sometimes the properties will go down. It will be sold at a lower than the market value because they realize that there's work to be done. They're willing to come down the price. So that's an opportunity. So opportunity for your buyer if they have a certain budget, and renovation's part of the budget. So they see, wow, this is a great situation. They came down 100,000 shekels lower than the market price. And now you can offer them this property if they're willing to do the renovation. But some people just don't. They don't like doing renovations. I mean, especially when they get older. Older people don't like doing renovations. They just forget it.
Even for younger, like myself as a buyer, when I'm looking at properties, there's a few things that I notice.
Okay.
One is how much work does the property need?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Because if the property is asking, let's say, I know what my budget is, but if the property is asking substantially higher than I'm expecting,
right,
that the property be renovated, because if it's not renovated, then I'm going to have to put in a substantial amount of money.
Correct.
So a higher price should be for an apartment.
That's right. It has to. Right. It's often people will they'll go to a property, and they say, oh gosh, it needs so much renovation.
Yeah.
And you have to tell it to the seller. And when the seller starts hearing that, and then we'll talk about it in a minute about sellers. Sellers have this image like, oh my gosh, I have the best property. They're on the seller's market. Okay, it may be a seller's market, but there's a certain limit. Okay, people when they come in, especially if they see damage, not just I want to renovate an old kitchen, I want to put new flooring, I want to put an air conditioning, but then especially when you have situations of retivut, which is a major issue. Okay, a lot of homes, wetness, moisture in the walls and this and that. Things are just falling apart. The pipes. So they used to build pipes out of metal. Now they do it out of plastic. So they fall apart, right? So, and that's why you have a building inspector. The building inspector comes in, looks at the property. You got X, Y, and Z, and that's important to know what you're getting involved with. In America, it's very well. I know it's a big thing, right? To see what issues there are with apartments.
Sure. So
again, you have to define: is it physical issues, or is it like old? It's not, but still that's renovation for some people. Today, a lot of people want things new and nice and clean, and that's why they often buy new property. People like new properties, which is nice.
There's issues with new properties also.
Right. I was reading a Jerusalem Post report about that, especially because the index That's the issue. When
Right.
I just the index.
It's not just that. Some coupons go bankrupt. Like for example,
Right.
across the street, right, the Harmony project that was
Yeah.
supposed to be done a few years ago.
Right.
They had an issue with the Topazara.
Oh yeah.
2 stories
Okay, I think I heard
up,
about. Oh, I think I heard about that.
yeah, there's another project in the Ramah that hasn't started building yet. That's supposed to be luxurious, but they're having issues. Like,
Wow.
so you have to know
Right.
what.
So there's pluses and minuses of new projects. You have to be very careful. So
that was our mistake. We
Yeah.
moved into a new apartment thinking
Yeah.
it won't have any issues. It had so many issues.
well,
Piping, the water.
well, especially in the very beginning.
moisture.
That's right when you buy right in any. I mean, ourselves when we first bought in Scheinfeld and many years ago. When you first move in, and also right across the street from us, we have these big new townhouses. Everyone had problems. Those first few years are crucial because, of course, that's when things start to appear. You put out the plumbing and the heating and whatever, and the wetness. Those you see, because there's a new apartment has been through wear and tear.
Right.
It hasn't been tested. It's like when you have a car, go through a car. You see car companies. You see them. What do? They go through these tests.
Yeah,
The car should the same with you can't do that with homes. It's just anyway.
And the Kavlan doesn't have any responsibility
Sure they do.
after the fact?
They do. No, they
for
do.
a year, but they don't answer
They do,
people.
but to get them to come over and how well they do the job, it's
No, I had a huge leakage from upstairs, and you know what they did?
Yeah.
They came and they painted over the mold.
paint a little more, and then do
But there's a leak.
right.
There's a leak.
No, it's
the mold came back.
it's an issue. It's an issue. Anyways,
I'm sorry, just
Yeah.
on that topic, so does the agent have any responsibility in that?
no.
No.
Well, for new homes,
Yeah.
no, that's all through.
It's all through the Kavlan.
No, the Kablan. It's all the Kablan's issue. Yeah, and then because you have. I think it's important that the real estate agent should say you have to make it clear before you
Well, there's certain projects.
before you sign. Speak to the Kablan. Tell what are the rights and what
There's certain
what are the,
projects that have better
guarantees?
representations than
Yeah.
others.
I'm sorry, what?
There are certain projects that have better representation than others. Like Wolfson are usually where the Americans buy,
Right.
and they have no issues when
That's
you
good.
first move
That's good.
in.
Yeah.
So that's their guarantee. That's
Yeah.
how they sell it to the Americans.
That's good.
Their projects are really expensive.
Right. So most Kablan have a certain number of years of security and guarantee on the properties. Anyways, so each one. To finish off about the buyers, you're flexible about moving dates. Moving dates, it can sometimes be a deal breaker. In the sense that many sellers want to leave in the summer because they feel that because of schooling, and then maybe they want to find a place to buy. But it can sometimes happen that that they have to be flexible, and they have to. Sometimes you pay them, and if they really want, you can pay them an extra fee, or the buyer can pay an extra fee to actually get them out of there earlier. I mean, it doesn't happen that often. So, again, this whole idea that sellers. Did I say over here?
What about?
Yeah, I didn't mention this. This comes into play. Is that sellers have to realize that qualified buyers, are not there all the time. They're a mitzvah. It's important. They have to realize that. Especially when you start bringing a number of buyers, they feel, we'll bring some other buyer. No, but the person's qualified. He can pay a certain amount of money down. Usually it's 15-20%. Sometimes he has all cash, which is even better. So you don't have to worry about mortgages or so. It doesn't always happen, but the issue, the main point I'm trying to make is that sellers have to realize that having a good buyer is a gift, and they shouldn't look at it lightly. They should be serious about that. And if they see you have a good buyer, so you may have to rent. You didn't find a place a place to move to, so you may have to rent. It's worthwhile for them to rent a place in the meantime if they have a good buyer.
What's the story with in terms of property prices?
Yeah.
Convincing sellers, like what I've seen.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how how much, like, it could be, for example,
Sure.
we spoke about the mortgages and how they only give 75% of what the value of the apartment is. So how do you convince a seller to say, okay, wait a second, it's only going to appraise for X amount of money
Right.
from the bank.
Right.
So you shouldn't be selling it for 2.8 if
Right.
it's only going to appraise. Someone's only going to be able to get a mortgage for 75% of 2.4.
Right. So, okay, you're right. So that goes to the next, that takes me to the next slide. Okay. Okay, the qualities of a good seller. They understand market prices. They see their neighbors. You have to ask them about betterment tax and such. But you mentioned, that's a good point though. They have to know market values. Okay. Besides the fact that they don't want to lose a good buyer because they're asking too much.
Right.
You have a good point. They also have to realize that even if they have a good buyer, okay, if they're overpriced, and this happened to me in Scheinfeld. The guy, we have these large townhouses. They're big. They're like the 2-level townhouses that were sold for 2.7, 2.5, and now they're selling at 4.5. One guy wants 4.8. Okay, that's the guy that I was talking in general. So we had a buyer who came in and looked at the place. Sent one of their friends, and when they went to the mortgage bank, they saw that, whoa, this property, I think it was Adam. He said, no, well, it's really only at most the value at 4.2. That gap is 700,000 shekels. They're not going to get a mortgage for that. Okay, we're not talking about property that is not legal. Okay, everything in that house is legal. Okay, we're talking. Okay, because there are situations where you have a property. Let's say the property is valued at, again, 3 million shekels.
Right.
Okay, but how much of that property is really legal at this point?
If there's halal, if there's this.
Right, is right. It could be only 80% is legal. So the mortgage broker is going to evaluate it only at that particular value of what's legal, 80%. So that's 80 times of 3. What is that? 300,000 shekels, whatever it is, right?
Right.
35. So that is going to be less that amount. So instead of getting a mortgage at 3 million, it's only going to be 2.6 or 2.65. So that leaves the potential buyer, okay, limited. If he doesn't have, instead of having a mortgage of 80%, he's going to have to get a mortgage. He can get a mortgage of 60%, let's say, right? So that's a big chunk. That's a big difference. 40% now he has to find cash.
Which is a deal that I had in place.
Yeah.
For example, I was going to buy a place on Yarkon.
Okay.
They were asking a crazy price. We had an agreed upon price, but
Okay.
the mortgage appraisal came back 250,000 shekels apart.
Wow,
so
that's
there was
difference.
no way.
Right.
I couldn't cover
Sure.
that extra 250,000 shekels.
So
It
sellers,
happens so often
right?
in our
So
neighborhood.
sellers sometimes think, oh, it's not a big problem. They'll come with cash. People today come with cash.
Well, the
Full cash.
Americans.
Not always. Yeah. Unless you sold in America, I don't know. Even then, who knows? They have a mortgage. What?
Even then, it's like,
Right.
depending where you
Good,
live,
right, they
it's
might-
not for a down payment. It's
Right.
not enough for a
Right.
pay
Maybe
down
down payment. They
mortgage.
may have an existing mortgage too, right? And it's like, who knows? I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
so it's not so simple. They have a good idea. Okay.
So do you
yeah.
educate the seller? Like when you're talking to a
Yes,
seller,
yeah,
your job
yeah,
is
yes.
to educate them on
It
all
is,
this, that they're,
it is.
and walk
Right.
them
Assuming
through that.
that-
And
assuming
you
they're
have to
willing
do
to
it in a
listen.
very gentle, educational way, and you have to try not to. You try to do it in a very professional. Again, they have to try to. Again, you say it in a nice way, and you show them examples, and you should just explain. Especially if you explain by example. I had a seller just like yourself. He had the same situation, and we really wanted to find a great buyer. Bring him a great buyer, but he was limited by certain issues that he it was too high price or it wasn't legal or the whole thing. Anyways,
So,
yeah.
do you then, so does a seller typically know, like, would they know this part of my house is not legal, this part is?
They know usually, but they try to ignore it.
They know.
They know and they're ignoring it because
Right. Right.
And so if they're not telling you that, how are you knowing that as the agent?
So, well,
Top of
I'm sorry, what?
the Arnona bill and the
Okay.
right.
top of the registration.
Uh-huh.
Right, and so once it gets to the lawyers in particular, okay, a good lawyer for the buyer will ask the seller's lawyer for all the documentation on the property, okay,
Mhm.
and there should be something also from the area. That's very important. If there's any issues or it's an old document, so usually the seller's lawyer will go to the area and get the actual papers
The
to
seller
show
will-
that everything's in order. If it's not in order, yeah, or again this illegal building, then you have to go back and then you negotiate the price, or often people today though someone was telling me that today a lot of the properties in Ramat Beit Shemesh they're getting rights, right, building rights. So it's changing. A lot of stuff is changing.
What does that mean?
In terms
Means they
of
can expand the property.
Uh-huh.
yeah.
But I found
Well, especially if the building is working within its original plan. I mean, you say like halal, like this, like if there's a space behind here, okay, it's not going to affect the actual shape of the building.
Mhm.
The building, so it's much easier to get rights on that.
Mhm.
Once you start expanding onto your merpeset, okay, that's more difficult to get rights for.
And is it typical for there to be that space on the inside of an Israeli?
Depends on the project. There are quite a few.
in Mishkafine, there are quite a few apartments.
Mishkafine? I know also on Lachish, okay, especially have you been to Referrals of Lachish yet?
Yeah, sure.
Down below, those apartments most of them some are up, but a lot of them are down, 1 or 2, 3, 4 flights.
Mhm.
A lot of them build halals. On Uriah, a lot of them have halals.
I think
A lot of there's so many. There's Timna.
Yeah.
Timna has many halals. There's a lot of projects with halals. That's the way, because you think about it, you're building onto a mountain, and there's always usually often a halal that people use, and you know what, the area, they love it because they love to make it legal because they want to have more arnona. Okay?
Also, there are.
Arnona. Yeah, you say?
What I found also is that sometimes why the prices are higher.
Yeah.
Or depending negotiators, because when they're trying to expand the property, there are taxes involved. So sometimes the seller is paying the taxes on it,
Right.
but they say, "Oh, if you want to pay the taxes, we'll lower the price, and you cover the taxes. Your ball gun."
Right. That's the thing. Right. So if you want to make it legal, you have to realize, right. So that's when you're with a buyer, and there are issues of making things legal. There's always a price. Okay. Besides that, I mentioned over here. I thought I mentioned here. This thing. Oh, I mentioned before. Betterment tax. Betterment tax is also important to know. It's called in Hebrew. What is it called in Hebrew again? Oh, remind me. I'm going to remember myself what it is. Basically, every property. Some properties have the ability to expand. Okay. It's called Hatel Hashbacha. Hatel Hashbacha. Hatel Bashbacha is the ability of a property to be able to expand. It's usually sold. It's usually put on the seller. It's the responsibility of the seller. The seller has to pay it before he actually officially sells his house. Is given rights by the city. Often the seller will.
The seller has to pay the tax.
The seller has to pay that tax. What does that mean? For example, in Scheinfeld is very popular. Also, I know in Givat Savion in Beit Shemesh. Basically, you have a house the houses in Beit Shemesh in Scheinfeld were originally from 140 to let's say 180 square meters, and you could build out to 250. So that extra 100 or 50, that's the ability to expand. Okay, the city will tax you for that. Okay, and that's they put that on the seller. Often the sellers, it only takes place when there's a sale. Okay, not beforehand. So the seller, and so many sellers are very upset about that, and they say, so they often will stick that onto the price, okay, as okay, rightfully so, maybe, I don't know, it's maybe debatable if they really should be doing that, but they do it. They often do it because they don't want to be, or sometimes they split. Sometimes I've been in a situation where we made a sale and they went both ways, because sometimes the buyers are not going to necessarily want to have to pay the extra tax for that too. So sometimes you have to negotiate.
What about Heter Benea?
Yeah.
Is that the same thing, or is that?
No, it's different. Yeah, no. Once you have the right, well, let's say there is a right to build more. Okay, so right, you have to, anything you build, you have to take it to an architect, to the city, and in order to get a heter b'niya on a particular, to expand. Okay, either expand, or you have property or you have space that it was already being used. So you have to heter b'niya, and that also costs money. So again, you have to see the people who know, like Don Sheffer was like one of the most popular Mandesim here. Okay, good place to. Okay, so we're talking about again the qualities of good sellers. I mentioned they know the market prices. They have in mind a place to move to. Sometimes you can do a two-way deal. I mean, in the sense that let's say you have a seller who says, "Well, yeah, I really want to sell this place. Oh, great! I have a great buyer. Thanks for bringing me a buyer, or maybe, but I have somewhere to go to. Can you find me a place to buy?" So so you can actually take that as a great opportunity, and then find him a place to buy. So you could actually be selling and buying and make a two-way deal, okay? Which is a really great. Sometimes it happens, and I usually in that situation I usually charge a lower commission on the second deal. Okay, so then when he buys, so instead of say if he wants 2%, get 1.5% or 1%, or combine it all together. That's why it's also like what I've seen when you go door to door, you can actually find people. The guy, and I usually, again, with door to door, I usually there are ways of doing it. I usually don't say, "Oh, do you want to buy, sell?" Because it makes people feel uneasy. I said, "Oh, do you know anybody in this building?" And so that's usually it takes the pressure off. And then they say, "Oh, yes, but I don't. I'm just renting." Often either they say, "I'm not interested," or they say, "I'm just renting." Okay, although the sellers were thinking about selling, so that's good. You take so you have to be courageous enough to ask for the phone number, or they'll say, "Oh, I heard about." Or I know someone on the third floor. That's important. Okay, who wants to sell, or they'll say, "Oh, I'm just renting, but I'm looking to buy or rent in a different area. Could you help me?" Okay, so that's why with door to door, you actually finding there's a lot of possibilities that are going on right there. So look, it's great. Look for all the options. Getting back to the qualities of a good seller, they're flexible at entry dates. They can give you a key, gives you a great advantage. I mean, in a sense, that's usually for exclusivity, but not necessarily. Meaning, what's the idea of getting a key? Often buyers are very. I think you see buyers. You get a call right away. I gotta see the place. So if you have a key, and they trust you, the sellers, you have a key. You can show it anytime you like, which is great. Because sometimes you have a buyer who's just there for the day. It happens. I'm just here. I just came off the boat. I have to go back. I'm just here. I have to go back to Yerushalayim. I'm going back in another 2 days. It happens.
You're on my pilot trip.
Yeah, and okay, I want to see this place. And if you have the key, wow, it's fantastic. That really shows added value that they're paying for. Besides that, will do their best to keep their place clean and tidy. Staging, right? This is a very big thing. Yeah, every family is different. Especially if they have kids, to have keep things always clean and tidy. But it's very important to give. That's why people often will say, "Give me a day's notice." Okay, you can't, and it's important. So if you try to give people a day's notice, and so they can clean it up and this and that, and also another thing, if you can, again, they have to understand that you're the ones you're the one showing. Once you did a tour with the property, you went around, you wrote it down. Then try to show it. Don't let the seller do it to lead, because the seller, again, the idea is going to, he might show your potential your clients things that they may not really want to see. Okay, I'm not trying to hide some major things. Oh, look at the view over here. There's a great view over here, but it's like a view of, it's not a great view. So they made something make it something that's like a parva thing. Okay, that's like in between, make it a negativity. Oh, you can build out farther, or you have these neighbors. I mean, whatever. They could say things so what your buyers are looking for. You may know what might turn them off. So you're focusing on those things. Okay, obviously you're not trying to hide them. Like, there's a major retributive problem. You have this wall here. That's not something that's ethical or legal, but it's something. Again, it's a kosher thing. I mean, it's fine. It's like, I don't like the view there. It's but it's a nice sunny apartment. I don't like so much sun. Some people don't like too much sun, but some people like everything. Again, so that's why buyers often like to. That's why I go with buyers. I don't want to be around them every little second, because they have to see this psychologically. They see that when a seller's there, it's hard for them to see themselves as potential, actually being there. Well, I'm going to be the new buyer, and they see the seller, and the seller's walking around and having them the whole time. Even real estate agents shouldn't especially with couples. They're talking to each other, and then when they're looking, oh, does this fit in here? This would fit in there. I just let them be, give them peace, give them space. Just like give space. To your kids, you want to give them space and just let be around. If they have any questions, you're there, but not to be on them every second. It's very
What's the
overwhelming.
fine line? Because I hear a lot of people complain that the realtors don't do nothing; they just stand outside.
Yeah, there's a fine, right. It's a balance. You want to be informative. Oh, this kitchen has, you can say this has these features. It has pulls out. And it's a new upgraded kitchen, and this has an air conditioning, and it has nice windows. Again, there's a certain balance, but you don't have to describe every little thing. It's upgraded, and a lot of things. Again, like they say, the house will sell itself often. You can point out a few things, but again, there's a balance, definitely.
What would convince someone to use a realtor? Because I know a lot of people are very on the fence. Not on the fence. They really don't want to use realtors. That's the honest truth.
So you have to ask why.
Because they've had that. Like I just told you, they just stand out. They don't really do much. That's just what I hear from other Israelis, from people around. They complain all the time. Like, I have to pay this person, and they stand outside. Like, they didn't even show me the apartment. Like, they didn't do much. So you have to show So you show the apartment. So how would you know if that person is the type of person that wants to know every single detail, or of the type that wants space?
So that's what I'm saying. That's why I usually I'm with them, but not on them. You see the difference? Yeah. They're coming. You stand out here. You don't have to go into the room. You could be right outside the room. And if they say, "Oh, can you tell me about this particular window, or does this closet stay here? Is it staying? Is it built in? Or is this light fixture staying?" As you're around, for them to be, you're being available for them, but not to be pressured, and they don't want to be pressured. And so it's right. It's a good, but you have to be involved, right? It's if you don't be, like I said, like remember I mentioned, I was on a phone call with when I was showing a rental, and I stayed downstairs to speak to another client, which was a mistake, because then the people went up and they were not. I wasn't up there. Terrible. Right. Thinking, looking back, who was I? Which is really not a good. Anyways, but all right, where are we holding here?
Staging.
Staging, cleaning, right? Yeah, making sure it's everything. Also, make sure there's lights on. Especially, it's really important that when you come in, I always tell the sellers to make sure the lights are on. Okay, because it's really I'm not trying to hide anything with people. It's nice to have again, if you see that there's natural light coming in and it doesn't make a difference, so maybe you don't have to necessarily use the light, but people, it's a good image. First time image is very important. First time impression. anything about up front, the seller will be upfront about any issues. Neighbors willing to let the realtor do his thing, not interview and say the items are not good. Okay, went over that. 5. Okay, we're now to where to find new listings. Okay, this is an important thing. So you see, in general, you have to be like what's his name? An investor. Basically, it's an investigator. You have to be it's like a private investigator. You got to be Sherlock Holmes. If he was a famous, I don't know if you heard of Sherlock Holmes. Back in the olden days, they had a few movies out. I think a few years ago. He was a famous author, and I think he was for real. I'm trying to remember if he was real. Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes
Was he real? Was he a real guy?
He was a fictional character.
It was fiction. Okay, fine.
Or
Anyways.
Conan Doyle.
All right, whatever. So that's the thing with you. It's a mind space. You have to. When you go on the street, you're subconscious. You're looking, and you see a for sale sign, even if it's for another realtor. That's fine. You look, and then one of the things I want to tell you, Daphne, today. There used to be years ago. I remember the first few years. It wasn't the first year, but let's say that after 2 or 3 or 4 years, when people started moving in, you see a lot of for sale signs. I say a lot. Whatever you see, you'd see plenty of them. Today, if you look about it, you don't see very many for sale signs. So when you say, okay, besides showing someone inside, the fact that properties, even though on one hand it's hard to find properties, there's not many properties out there the many for sale signs. But if you know of a place that hasn't gone on the market, you have a tremendous advantage over other people, obviously over them, because they see you as that you're a facilitator of properties that are not on the market. Anyway, getting back over here, you see for sale sign, you stop, take a picture of it, try to call as soon as you can. And often, what does that mean? Sometimes it means you have to get off, you have to find a parking space. Sometimes you can do it, you can stop and lower your window. Sometimes I can do that. Sometimes they're on the 3rd or 4th floor. Whoa, it's hard. Sometimes if you see a for sale sign, and it often happens, and the for sale sign, for some reason, there's a number that's missing, or sometimes the old for sale signs are made from cloth, and some of the numbers are not apparable. Apparent and not clear. You walk up, take the elevator, or walk up to that, and you knock on the door. Okay, don't worry. They have plenty of people knocking on the doors. You're selling. So it's important that's how you find properties, and don't be embarrassed to go. So if you need to go knock on the door, and and you make the phone call. Hi, I'm so and so, and again, you're open. I'm not. I'm not. Again, I wouldn't talk about it before. Also, there are also some sellers out there who also just for some reason they don't even want to work with realtors. Okay, so you can ask why, but often just say, I usually say, it's okay. I understand. I usually say usually the issue is a commission. So I don't take commission. Sorry, okay. So often they'll calm down. Say, okay, fine. Sometimes they want it in writing. Fine, you want it in writing. I can write it in there. Yeah.
That you won't take commission from them.
From them. Again, we didn't get this. That's the next slide. Commission.
Right. No,
how do we get commissions?
It's not that I'm asking so much about the commission, but I'm trying to understand the relationship. Right.
You're coming. You're gonna bring your own buyer, your client, and they're free. They're not committed to you at all in any way.
So your goal when you're looking on the street, when you see the for sale sign, your goal is, maybe there's one goal to see if you can become their seller.
Right.
But your second goal, and if there's another realtor.
There's 2 goals, right.
And the other goal is to see if this can be an apartment that you can bring your buyer to.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So if there is another agent that is the exclusive seller.
Yeah.
You can still bring your buyer.
Of course. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, you can bring your buyer. That's not an issue. It's part of being exclusive. As an agent, you're supposed to bring as many potential buyers as possible.
Yeah, right.
Your own clients and anybody and other agents as well who have their own clients. Okay, so that's part of.
So you need to have a good relationship with other real estate.
Yes, it does. It helps. Some are easier to work with than others.
Okay.
So you'll see as time goes on, they'll get to know you, and that's why it's good. It's and you should know some you'll do better with one particular agent in a company than another agent. You think it depends on as time goes on. Flyers. Okay, how to find new stuff. Yeah, flyers near businesses and public places. I found a place here on a bus stop many years ago. Someone who was selling. Within half an hour, this is Mina Shemayim, someone called me. I'm visiting just for the day. Okay, and I said, okay, I have a place for you. I just, I'm gonna go see it. And he actually bought the house that I just saw from a flyer that I got to lead off a bus stop. Little flyer on the bus stop. You never can tell where you're gonna find. You don't know where your shoe is gonna come. It happens to Kahara fine. It's like it's true, 100%.
Can I also just ask?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. These are really basic things.
Sure.
But so would you, whenever you, do you always see an apartment before you bring a buyer to it?
You try to. Sometimes, like Daniel saw that sometimes the sellers will say, don't come yourself unless you bring a buyer. Okay. Because they don't want, I guess they feel, coming in, I'm going to show you, but it's to really present a property. I mean, you see pictures sometimes. That's okay, but it's not the same.
Right.
Because again, it's definitely more professional and to be able to show something that you've already seen before. But again, sometimes sellers are just that's the way they are. They don't owners. They don't want to show the property just to. I have plenty of agents. Oh, you have a buyer. Okay, fine. I bring the buyer. So anyway, internet sources. Okay, there's Yad Shtayim. There's all these. There's Matlan, Como. Less known, but Como. Like about Como, they'll Como. A lot of these places, a lot of these services will send you an email with something that has a particular setting. Four rooms in Ramapi Shemesh or whatever. You will define for them what you're looking for, and when someone comes on in their Marechet, in their their system, they'll send you an email with a listing. Okay.
And how do you spell that? Is it COMO?
Como, yeah, COMO. I'm sorry, KOMO. KOMO, yeah. Craigslist. Although Craigslist is mostly sells for sale by agent, but you can sometimes you find for sale by owners as well there. And it's also nice to see. Sometimes you see things that are again potentially for other. I would definitely look at what Craigslist has. Again, they have other agents. You can see what they have. Janglo now has a whole department of for sale and for rent. Yatid, I know Yatid is more Haredi, but sometimes they have things. Facebook, of course, Facebook groups. There's different things for sale. Sometimes even the things that are sold, it's okay. It's something that says people are selling without an agent. You saw that? I don't know if you saw that. Yeah, right. You can even go on there too. You just like obviously you can't advertise there, but you
People
can.
do anyway.
Huh?
People do anyway.
People do it? I know. Yeah, not supposed to. Whatever. Do that.
So do they go on it and they just like observe who's selling and then talk to them separately?
Yeah, whatever. It's like. Anyways.
You're not selling it. I see you posted multiple times. I'm an agent. I have clients.
Right. That's right. Each of these Facebook groups have certain rules, and sometimes you can advertise, not advertise, but they're there. There's also what I wrote over here. Oh yeah, there's also the bait and Ramapi Shemesh and Ramapi Shemesh lists. Okay, look on there. Sometimes you see people sometimes advertise.
I'm sorry, and what?
On the lists.
On the list.
On the list, right?
RBS views.
RBS Views sometimes has stuff on. Yeah. It comes to our door. Door to door. Here you can get new buyer and renter leads. As I mentioned before, you can people are always. You never can tell who's knocking the door, what they're looking for. Okay, and you could be their source of what they need. Call your contacts and find potential sellers and buyers. Okay, now this is very interesting. How much percent do you think in America, at least in America, what percent do you think are actually sales come through people that either or people that or former people that like relatives, friends, clients, professional people, like I mentioned before. What's the percentage you think comes from that?
25%.
Huh?
25? 25 to 50%.
Are you including word of mouth? Like, so
that's word of mouth. That's word of mouth. Yeah.
Speaks to someone that they're friends with. I think it's like 75%.
Okay, it's less. It's closer to what Daniel's saying.
Okay.
Did you see? Now look at
like when you do fundraising, it's really about like word of mouth and developing relationships.
So the Keller Williams guidebook, I put it on the WhatsApp. You see one of the WhatsApp's screenshots I took? Okay. You see there's a graph of okay. Look at the bottom, towards the bottom. Okay. On the bottom, it shows that people who came through family members and through other leads. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Look at no. Open houses got very little. You should know. If you look although today it's a little different, maybe in America, but open houses they didn't get a lot of people from open houses, from flyers, internet. No, internet wasn't bad. It was 8-10%. But how much was the big numbers? Like 15-20%.
I'm not sure I'm looking at the right.
You see it? Okay.
I'm looking at the mind map. Is that what you're?
No. It's a graph. It shows. I think it was the first one. The first after the PowerPoint. There's a couple of screenshots I took.
This one
in Hebrew.
Yeah, that one.
That one?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, okay.
When you go home, you can't go home through Yarden. You have to go through the Merkaz.
Through Jordan? Why?
There's a major fire.
Oh my gosh.
Right now?
Oh my gosh.
Well, that wasn't when I came. It was fine.
That's terrible.
So you got to go through the Merkaz. No, Yarden.
Or Don, yeah. Okay. So what does it say? So what are the main? What was this? What does it say there in Hebrew? The ones that are like 15-20%.
What is the phrase? What are we looking for?
The bigger numbers.
So 20%.
Yeah, 15-20%.
Hafniyut?
Huh?
Does it say Hafniyut?
Yeah, Hafniyot. That's being referrals.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So we see that referrals, right? Referrals is very important, and people that's why there's actually in Keller Williams and probably in Remax, they're very big in spending a certain number of hours. I'm telling you, to really like the very, very active people. They spend a lot of time on the phone, just talking to people, friends, and this and that, and they get referrals and this and that. That's all they're doing. That because they see it's a major. Do not take that for granted. I'm telling you, as you see, it's
Does it affect your relationship with them?
No.
As someone who's selling, like sometimes, like do you feel like?
Not necessarily. No. Okay. Yeah. If first of all, they want to help you with your parnassa and this and that and whatever. It's like I know some people. There are people who don't want to use someone that they know, but. It's usually I find that doesn't necessarily be a taken for a given. You have to fill out and then that's the way it is. All right, where are we holding here? Call your contacts to find potential sellers and buyers from your own flyers and business cards. You will be called to give estimates and evaluations. Sometimes you've seen a lot of people they just stick things in the. If they don't necessarily have time, I mean, it's true. When you knock on a door, no one's home. It's good to leave something. Eventually, I'd like to do something for Purim. We talked about added value, like something they could use, and they'll remember a sticker or a magnet it's on the calendar, or whatever. Sometimes it's something that people will use in the future. It's nice to have that they won't throw away right away. From the Hagefen side and advertising, so that they see your name, they say, "Oh, I'm gonna call that person." So that's another way to get seller leads and get new leads. How do we get commissions? From buyers, it's easier. They need your service. Okay, they need you. That's basically they feel. I think they definitely feel you're more of a need. And in America, it's maybe it's sellers as well. 2% plus VAT is standard. No reason to compromise unless for like special cases. Say someone's really in a bad financial shape. Instead of giving, I've done that before to some widows or some people who were really in such a bad situation. I didn't sell that. Either I'm going to take from the seller, or I just gave a half, or I gave them a special reduction in the commission as a buyer. You need to get their confirmation in writing and signature. That's by law. You learn about that, and also that's very important to get their confirmation. Let's try to do that before you even. I try to do it before you even meet with them, because once you meet with them, it's a little uncomfortable. I think, especially sitting in front of a house and people are walking by and they're signing, and then they may not.
Is there like something formal they can sign?
Huh?
I don't like. Is there something formal they can sign?
Yes.
I know people like.
Yes, you have to
WhatsApp messages, and I'm like, that's not professional.
That's not. Yeah. This is.
What about?
You have to have
people,
someone. Yeah.
What about people who? I haven't done this yet, but I have a friend who did.
Yeah.
They basically said, "I'm not going to see it unless you lower the commission," or if I
they what? They what?
I'm not going to sign it unless you lower the commission.
Okay, that's negotiable.
And the other thing is, I'll only sign it if I like the property afterwards.
No, for sure not. For sure. You see by a real estate law that they can come back by themselves and go on their own. Once they saw it.
No, we'll see it and then I'll sign it.
Yeah, they may not sign it. They may not sign at all. How do you know they're going to sign it?
Wait, how
do you trust them? How do you know? People who work, you don't want to work with people like that. They're really, it's very. You're taking yourself into you're taking
so
to
we
a
should
cocoon.
Negotiate our commission down.
Commission depends how much, and
Meaning, a lot of people will say.
It also depends on the property, the size of the property. The property, as mentioned over here, the price of the property. It's like a $5 million for $6 million. So the property, million per shekel property. Then you get. So they come down. You come down to a certain amount. So. Because often people say, especially if you just show them one property, they're always saying, "Oh, why should I pay you all this commission? You just show me one property." Okay, there's something to that, but still, again, if it's again, you have to feel the person, the situation, the price, everything is again, if it's a good buyer, again, you at least get some commission, so you take a break. So it's like this. But again, it's if you have a question, you'd be in touch with me, and I'll let you know what I think. If you have any questions. Once you send me the address, they're obligated to see it through you. That's why it's mentioned before. On my form, I'll give you. Everyone's going to have there's going to be a source sheet. I have a Google form. They'll have all the information that they can download, use. Whatever the hell they want to use it. We will have electronic things like Duffy. You sent me a nice thing like that. That thing that app you sent me.
Yeah, DocuSign.
I like that. Yeah, I like that kind of thing. Something like that they can sign right away. And once again, part of the language is that even anything sent electronically is. I give you the address. They can't go on their own. Right? Once they sign at that point, I gave them the information. And often, sometimes if you don't have exclusivity, for example, if you say, oh, you call a person, hi, I want to see this property, great, you show it to the person. If it's often, if you don't know them that well, you're not quite sure, don't necessarily, you can meet them, don't give them the name of the property, give them the number of the property that's right nearby. You don't have to give them the exact, okay, you meet him like instead of Kenisa Aleph, Kenisa Beit, or instead of 21, 23. You meet him then you bring him over, okay? And then you can write down the number, right? Because sometimes, people are a little bit crafty and they, it's like it happens. It happens sometimes, so it's you don't have, unless you feel good about the person, it's fine, it's like, and sometimes there's no way they would go around you because the owner doesn't even live there. The owner lives in the Huslaritz and you have the key and there's no way they would know. But if, again, you have to fill it out. Once you send the address, right, be quick. There are other agents out there. I mentioned before. Sellers, if they call you, ask for 2%. If need be settled for less. If they accept an exclusive, you even give it a discount. Exclusive, we'll talk about that later in a different meeting. Sometimes depends on the price. Right, as I mentioned, expensive versus low. And property sellers, if you approach them, better to start with 1.5 or 1%. I tell you, because once it's hard. I pay the commission. If they don't want to pay, make them a deal. What is over? I mentioned to Daniel before.
Are they also plus that?
What's that? Yeah, you try to do plus that. What is over a certain amount price is our commission. Basically, you do a deal with them. Again, it's a profession. It used to be agents would never do this. Today, people do it. They do it. There's no. Because sellers, if you approach somebody, they don't, unless they really value. Teach them the value of real estate. They're not. Again, this is something that you can do. Obviously, you can't really super overprice the place because you want your commission. See, that's the psychology. People, again, why? One of the reasons why, Daniel, I just want to tell you why people don't necessarily don't want to use agents is because they think, oh, if I don't want to use an agent on the sell side because the buyer is going to have to incur the extra commission that I'm going to have to be selling, to including in the sell price. So that's the chachma, that's the thing they're thinking about. You have to kind of talk to them about that. That again, that's part of, so they have to include, and they have to realize that it's worth including giving some person a commission, not over commission, obviously. That happened once also with a seller. I sold something that I think was more than 2% above there's more than 2% of what he was going to get, and he got upset at me, and then I think we sold it, but then we had to lower my commission even less. I think it was not a good feeling. Anyway, so you have to be careful how you do it. But often if sellers hear that, they feel they're not losing out. Okay, I want $2 million. Oh, you'll find me for someone extra above that. I usually write up to 2%. Okay. Sometimes they'll say, forget it, I'll give you $1 million shekels more. It's not. No one's going to bring. It's not realistic. It's like it's crazy. People, you're not going to bring someone for, if it's worth $2 million, being $3 million. It's not doesn't, not living in reality. Any questions?
So first of all, you had, when you're talking about using, like, sharing things,
yeah,
on Google Docs or whatever you're
right.
talking about, like, so you have forms.
So I'll have the forms, right? I'll have all the forms for you,
okay,
to download for sellers, for buyers. I'm also going basically it's going to be I've already beginning to develop it. We'll also have a form. We'll have it's a master folder. In that folder, we'll also have an Excel file. On that Excel file, we'll have all of the sellers, all of the buyers. When you finish, if you yourself went out with a particular buyer, you filled out the form. You could either download it I'm not sure how you download it to an Excel form, but at least you fill in the information, basically the basic information that you have. Send me you'll send me by WhatsApp or email the actual buyer form that you filled out. I'll have it, and we'll probably have those in a separate folder, like a subfolder, okay, of buyer forms or seller forms, and then but within the actual Excel, it'll be divided into buyer, seller, renter, whatever it could be, rent, and also by agents. Like, this agent saw this person, this, by agent, so he showed this particular property, and it'll all be so that way any agent who showed a property, who went out with a particular agent, and let's say he takes that same agent, who'll be able to know what he saw, and one thing, again, not everyone's here tonight, so we have to decide in terms of how we're splitting. In terms of a split. Now, when I say splitting, I mean like this. I think I'm talking about more of like focusing new buyer, new seller leads, like either by canvassing or whatever, however you want to do it, flyers or because as opposed to let's say you find a buyer, and it doesn't mean that you're limited only to your property, only to your neighborhood. You can take them to other neighborhoods as well. Okay, I didn't want to make sure that's understood.
Okay,
you shouldn't feel only like you see in Shiloh. Oh no, you can take the Olive, the Gimel, wherever they are.
Okay.
Obviously, if I get a lead for a particular person whose primary interest is in Gimel, so I'll give it a Daphne or Shimi. Hopefully he joins us. So that's more. But if it's someone that's like global. Again, Olive is very big. It can be so many areas. But in terms of like dividing those particular areas, in terms of their, I think we need to like have another meeting for that, or maybe people could talk to themselves about it in the beginning. I could do this particular area, like that area, and feel comfortable in terms of new leads.
We're only doing buying, selling, no renting. No
What's that? Rentals too. Yeah.
Rentals too?
Yeah, rentals is very similar in terms of rentals are a little different. Why are they different? Because often today, especially working with especially with working with exclusivity, meaning in the sense that many property owners, when they want to rent out their place, a lot of them don't give commission, okay, from their side. So that's why sometimes they do.
They don't get permission.
The property owners will often not give commission to an agent for bringing renters. So meaning this, so what does enough mean? What does that mean? It means like if you're working with another agency, okay, they often will say, well, I'm not really getting from the seller, but if you want something, if you really want to bring your client, so we're going to have to split the commission, okay, the rental commission. Yeah, it happens. Okay, well, it's better than nothing, but it's like that's why I see with rentals it's harder. With sales, it's much easier. Often with sales, though, you have to understand that there can also be a situation where it's called a pot, split into a pie, a pot. I mean, all in one pot. Sometimes they're only getting 1% from the seller, okay, and you're getting 2% from the buyer. They know that because they also get usually 2% from the buyer. So they'll say we'll split the commission together. Each situation has to be judged on its own right. You have to be in touch with me and let me know what I think. So I think we covered enough ground tonight. An hour and a half.
Can I just ask one more
Yeah,
question
sure.
about the sellers?
Sure.
Which is, let me just go back to the.
Wait, what's the commission of rentals?
1 month.
And 1 month.
1 month plus VAT?
Yeah, usually 1 month. Yeah.
Okay, so again, this is an ignorant question.
Sure, no, it's like yeah.
But when you're approaching sellers, like like cold calling and trying to find sellers,
Sure.
right? So do you still get a commission if you're not their exclusive agent? You have to be the exclusive agent to get the commission from the seller. If you, I'm just trying to understand the, if you approach them better to start, you can negotiate on your commission, right?
Yeah, right.
But you're negotiating, you're talking in a situation where you're negotiating to become their exclusive agent.
Could be, yeah.
And
But
if you're not
again,
the
right.
exclusive agent, then the commission is solely from the buyer's end.
It was not necessarily.
Okay, so that's what
It
I'm not
really
understanding.
depends.
Okay.
Okay.
That's
So
what I
again,
thought I
go
heard.
over. There's 2 types of relationships with sellers. Okay.
Okay.
There is non-exclusive, and there's exclusive. Okay.
Okay.
Non-exclusive means that you can bring them buyers. They can find buyers on their own, or they can find buyers from another agent. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Will they give you a commission? Maybe yes, maybe no. It depends how they feel about how serious they are, and how they evaluate and they judge real estate agents. If they really value them. If they value them, then you have to ask. If they value, they say, okay, fine. You want a buyer? Actually, you want to bring a buyer? You can bring a buyer. I'm serious. I'm somewhat serious. I really appreciate your work. So I'll be able to give you I'll give you 1%. Okay.
Is that typical, though?
1%. I'll give you
Typically
1%.
say-
What's that?
So I would imagine, like for a seller in that position, like typically, they wouldn't want to pay a commission for someone who's already getting a commission for bringing about, for getting
They
a
don't.
buyer.
They don't often think about that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's your business with your client.
Okay.
Sometimes they do, but then they usually don't. They usually say, they're looking at from their own end, and what are they getting out of this? If they say if they see that you have really a good source of, again, they're used to the classic way in Israel. I don't know in America what it still is. Remax used to be very tough. They would say, if you don't sell an exclusivity with me, I'm not bringing anybody.
Mhm.
Okay, and I think even Remax today cannot do that anymore because they see that as this is different market, different mentality, different situation today. Again, as I mentioned before, and then you have an exclusive seller, and for sure you should try to get something from them because you need to just because you're and that's a separate discussion. What does that mean? How do you do it? because with exclusivity, you're advertising much more. You're doing flyers. You're doing advertising in weekly magazines. You're doing a lot more than someone who's just off the market. Someone who's not giving exclusivity. It's a nice property. I mean, you want to advertise. It could be that it's not in the market so much. It brings potential buyers.
We're speaking of advertising
for
a second. Something that really annoys me that I've seen too many agents do these days is not post the price of the property.
Okay. So there's a reason.
What is the deal with that?
There's a reason.
Is that professional? Is that not professional?
It's a good question.
Because it annoys a heck of a lot.
It annoys people. I know. I don't usually do it. You saw I did it in the one I have in Scheinfeld. I did it there for a reason because I didn't want people to, because when I tell people that it's an overpriced, I don't want if they. But everything I'm afraid. Is overpriced. No, necessarily. If for example, there it's 2.8 million 850,000 shekel. It's overpriced, but I want to explain that it's going to be. I mean, you can write in your ad, the number, the price, and it's flexible. But most people don't understand it's flexible. Obviously, the reason why they do that is because they want to pull you in. They want to pull you because if you write a price that's above their budget, then you'll never see them again. You'll never see them at all. They're never going to contact you.
What should we be doing?
It's better to. In general, it's better to write the price. Okay. And I'm very flexible, or serious, whatever you want. I think that's the best way to go about it. We have to discuss more. I saw you were in touch. I saw you were in touch with the guy from Lemkin.
All right.
He mentioned there's an open house on Friday. He mentioned that Daniel should come. You should go to. Yes. All of you should go to try to go to open house. Just
don't steal their buyers.
No, you can go here. You bring your own. You always come.
Your
buyers.
Go there. Don't steal their buyers.
No, I've had that.
But they don't have registration.
What's that?
So a lot of what I've noticed in Israel is there isn't really a registration table.
You're supposed to. You should.
In America.
No, you do. I have when I've done open houses. They don't really bring tons of people, but it depends. You have always people sign up and they come, and it's good. You don't have to bring as you as agents. You can go in. Hi, I'm from Hagefen Realty. Well, I saw this beautiful. And you come because, again, the more that more properties potentially. Again, it shows that you have shlita. You have command on an area and knowledge, and you have people like that.
What WhatsApp groups should we be on? I know there's Shtupula, a couple WhatsApp groups.
I'm on a few RBS real estate groups. I could try to send you. I'll send you the information. And how good they are, and how good they are. But Okay.